Hello everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is John. I'm a full-time eBay reseller based in Melbourne, Australia. This is part 4 of our weekly theme covering item research. I hope you've taken the time to watch part 1, 2, and 3, where we cover 3 different aspects of this thing called item research. And I hope that it gives you confidence to know more about your items and start selling them. In part 4, we're going to talk about what happens when you don't have enough information, which seems contradictory to the first 3 parts, where we acknowledge that sometimes there can be too much information and we need to dissect it and chop and change it. The time when I've experienced that there is not enough information is when I've come across categories that in the real world seem like they are no-brainer categories to sell. But then when I go on eBay, I don't see any consistent trend of sales or sellers participating in that category. So that's more of a commentary on the size of the market. Let me explain. There was a category of item where I kept hearing when I became a parent, every kid needs to have one of these things. Every kid needs to have one of these things. I went, okay, if every kid needs to have one of these things, surely it's a pretty big market. I go on eBay and I see, several thousand sales over the last year. But when I start pulling apart who the biggest sellers are, because I'm competitive that way, I want to know who am I going up against and if I can even have a chance. I noticed that the largest seller only had about 100 or so listings. The prices were all over the place because these items were very much sourced for rarity rather than sourced to meet a need. And I noticed that the prices were one day $99 for new in packet versus one day $45. There was no rhyme or reason to it. And it got me thinking, can I meet this real world demand for every kid needs one of these things and create that consistency? Meaning I'll take $2,000, I'll go buy as much of that stock as much of that category of item as I can, and I'll start selling it and I'll start ranking it. At the start, I was making, I guess, market value for some items. Rarer items, I was making way below market value. But it started with me learning, okay, here's how these items stagger up, where these items at the top end go for this much for this reason that I learned. This item in the middle goes for this price for this reason. And the more I started buying these items, I realized, okay, there is definitely a supply lack at this end and heaps of supply at this end. And what eventually ended up happening was, by the time I had sold this category of item for 6 months, I was doing about 10 to 15K in sales. By the 12-month mark, it was consistently about 12K to 15K a month. And that got me understanding that when there are categories with no clear leader, you can be the one who goes in there and creates that consistency. You determine what the market should be. Right now in that category, I do 70% of all sales in Australia. And I now look for that opportunity. Whenever I research new categories, I ask myself, if I take apart all the different sellers, you generally can tell by the photos, you can tell by the titles, which seller is who. And then I look at current day listings to see if they are still selling the item. You very quickly work out what the number of listings correlates to the number of sales they do over what now is a 2-year period that Therapy provides you data for. And that very quickly lets me know, is there space for me to dominate or not? So when there's not enough information, don't feel like the category isn't worth investing in. Go outside of eBay and figure out if there is an actual demand if you provide the supply, and then come back to eBay and test. Allocate a fixed amount of money to get stock and sell, and eventually you might just become the benchmark that because you have expanded the market to be the point of reference. I love this because then when new people come into the category, if you're buying aggressively and you're clearing out the market, and I love secondhand items because once you buy the stuff, no one else can buy the stuff unless someone puts it back up on the market again. So if you're clearing out the stock and leaving the stuff with lesser profit available for other people to have a go, and they come in and they undercut your pricing to try and get a sale, firstly, the range that you provide, because you are the person with all the items available for sale, that is a bigger hole than a cheaper price if they have to buy one from this seller and one from another small seller. And secondly, if someone is buying at a higher cost but selling at a lower price, they're not going to be able to beat you sustainably anyways. So that's great defense for an industry that has a very low barrier to entry. In summary, when thinking about item research and feeling like categories are not as fleshed out as they should be, consider testing and expanding that market so that you become the point of reference within that category, however narrow or wide that niche may be. So yeah, thank you for watching this video. If you like it, subscribe to the channel, share with a friend, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.